So now that we've got an idea of what we want to track in GA4, I'm going to show you how to set that up. There is a method where you can quite easily integrate using your old Universal Analytics setup. So you can do that using the Setup Assistant in the GA4 profile that you've created. However, I personally tend to stray away from this because it kind of just latches onto the current Universal Analytics setup and it doesn't give you a chance to rewrite the data into the correct structure that GA4 will use. So it doesn't really give you a sort of efficient way of restructuring the data into parameters that you want, and it kind of just sticks with the old Universal Analytics setup. We're also unsure as to how long this will sort of continue going. I kind of get a vibe that it might turn off after a while, and it's kind of just a bit of a temporary solution. So we're going to use Google Tag Manager to just set up some tags quite quickly. So this is a Google Tag Manager container. It's just a bit of code that you put on the website. And we're just going to set up the page view tag for GA4. So here I'm just going to click New Tag. And I'm going to click the GA configuration tag. And then I'm going to find my data stream in GA4. And I'm going to take this measurement ID. And then I'm just going to put it in there. And I'm going to name this GA4 page view. Ooh. And then I'm just going to add a trigger as initialization all pages. If you do have consent settings, you'll probably want to use this because then that takes into consideration the consent settings on the website. However, I'm just going to use this one. So I'm going to save that. And once we submit that, then the page views will start tracking. And that will include any automatic events that you've set up as well. So like the things like the scrolls and the video tracking that we just went through, that will all start tracking in your setup too. So if I wanted to create an event, you may have some triggers already in place. However, I'm just going to set up a simple GA4 event. So if we go onto the Google Merchandise store here, I'm just going to inspect this button. And you can see here that the button class is button carousel. So I'm just going to do that again just to show you. It's quite quick. So there you go. You can see that the class is button carousel. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to create a click trigger. So what this does is choose built-in variable, click class. So it's looking for the class, a click that happens on a specific class. So I'm going to say when a class equals this, that's my trigger. So this trigger will be looking for a click that happens on that class. So any click that happens on this, which has a class of that, this trigger will trigger essentially. So I'm going to call this homepage carousel click. And then I want to set up my GA4 event to fire when that click happens. So I've just gone into my tags. I'm going to click new. And I'm going to set up a GA4 event. So I'm going to use the page view settings for that event. I'm going to call this event homepage carousel click. And if you want to add parameters to it, you can. So here we would add things like a page type parameter, and the value here would always be homepage because it's the click's happening on the homepage. Whereas you might actually have some variables which are dynamic. So then it will populate this value with whatever page you're actually on. you'll need to get the devs involved for that to implement a data layer. Or if you've got the ability to do that in the back end to implement a data layer, that's great. So up here, I'm just going to call this GA4 event homepage carousel click, and I'm going to add a trigger for that. So that's the trigger we created earlier in here. So I've actually now got my two events. I've got my page view and I've got my event. So this is the page view, and then that's an event. So all we'd have to do is actually just submit that. So I'm just going to call it GA4 v1. So added GA4 page view and GA4 carousel click and publish. And then that's it. And we're now going to go and have a look to see how to QA that and check that it's working.